The three invisible forces that make us fall in love. There is a frightening thought that very few people dare to confront. What if love is not entirely destiny? What if the moment our hearts begin to tremble is not magic, not the work of fate, but the result of invisible forces quietly operating beneath the surface of the human soul? We grow up with movies that teach us that love begins with a glance, a kiss, an accidental touch, a spark between two strangers in a crowded room. But real life tells a different story. People can embrace each other and still remain strangers. They can kiss without ever falling in love. They can spend years together while their souls remain galaxies apart, and yet, two people may sit across from each other in a quiet cafe for only a few hours, and leave with the strange feeling that they have discovered a missing piece of themselves. Why? What truly makes us fall in love? Not beauty, not wealth, not status. History has shown us countless beautiful people who were abandoned. Countless wealthy people who died lonely. Countless successful people who returned each night to cold and empty homes. Some possess everything and yet are loved by no one. Others possess almost nothing except their presence, and still someone chooses to stay with them forever. Perhaps love does not begin in the eyes. Perhaps it begins with something far rarer, the feeling of being seen. Because the greatest tragedy of human beings is not loneliness. It is living an entire life without ever being truly known. We move through the world wearing countless masks, the good child, the successful student, the responsible husband, the strong wife, the hard-working employee, but beneath every mask lives a frightened human being, carrying wounds that have never been named. Then one day someone appears. They do not ask about our achievements. They do not ask how much money we make. They do not care how successful we are. They simply ask, why do you seem so sad? What happened that changed you? How long have you been carrying this alone? And that is where love begins, not with attraction but with curiosity. Curiosity, when someone wants to enter your inner world, most people are not truly curious about others. They simply wait for their turn to speak. They ask questions out of politeness, they listen only to respond. But the person who moves our hearts is different. They genuinely want to know, not what we do, but why we chose that path, not who broke our hearts. But what caused our hearts to close, not what we fear. But when those fears first began, these questions become keys. They unlock rooms inside us that have remained closed for years. Sometimes we do not realize how lonely we have become until someone finally listens. Because most of our lives, people only see the surface. They see the smile but not the tears. They see the success but not the despair. They see the strength but not the sleepless nights. Then someone quietly says, that must have been very difficult for you, just one sentence. Yet it can break walls we have spent 10 years building. Human beings do not fall in love with people who understand everything. We fall in love with people who genuinely want to understand. Curiosity says, I believe there is still so much inside you worth discovering. And perhaps that is one of the most beautiful confessions a person can receive. Roman 2. We do not fall in love with perfection. We often believe that we must become perfect in order to deserve love, more successful, more attractive, more intelligent, stronger, but this is one of the cruelest lies we tell ourselves. Because what frightens us is not being seen. It is being seen and then being judged. Every one of us carries hidden shame, failures, dark thoughts, moments of weakness. Things we believe would make us unlovable if the world discovered them. And so, when we encounter someone who has enough generosity to accept imperfection, our hearts begin to lower their defenses. They do not make us perform, they do not ask us to prove our worth. They do not demand that we become our best version. They simply allow us to be human, to be tired, to be afraid, to be disappointed, to fail. In a world where everyone pretends to be strong, the person who accepts our weakness becomes a shelter. And perhaps that is the true definition of love. Not someone who makes you perfect, but someone who makes it unnecessary to pretend. Roman 3. Kindness, the home every soul is searching for inside, every human being lives a cruel voice. It whispers, you are not enough, you are weak. You deserve to be abandoned, you are a failure, you are worthless. We become the harshest judges of ourselves. Every mistake is placed on trial. Every failure becomes evidence against our worth. Then one day someone looks at the very things we hate about ourselves and says, perhaps you have suffered too much. Perhaps it wasn't entirely your fault. Perhaps you simply needed more love. Those words are like light entering a dark room. Because sometimes what we need is not advice, but gentleness, not correction, but understanding, not judgment, but kindness. We spend much of our youth searching for someone beautiful, successful, powerful, impressive. But as we grow older, we realize that what we truly seek is a place where we can finally put our hearts down and stop defending ourselves. A place where our wounds are not mocked, where our fears are not dismissed, where our failures are not condemned. If there is such a thing as a home for the human soul, it is not built from wealth or beauty. It is built from 3 invisible stones: curiosity, open-mindedness, and kindness. Because in the end, we do not love the people who overwhelm us. We love the people who make it safe to be ourselves. And perhaps the deepest form of love is not being admired, it is being understood, not being desired, but being accepted, not being perfect, but being allowed to be human. For all of us, beneath the masks, beneath the ambitions, beneath the endless struggle to become enough, there remains one silent hope. That somewhere in this world, there is a person who will look at our broken pieces and stay. Not because we are extraordinary, but because they understand. And that may be the closest thing to home that a human being will ever find. Part Roman 2, why we keep choosing the wrong people, and yet. If these 3 ingredients are the foundations of love, why do so many of us repeatedly choose people who possess none of them? Why do we fall for those who never truly see us? Why do we chase those who judge us? Why do we remain loyal to people who are incapable of kindness? The answer is uncomfortable. Because love is not always driven by wisdom. Very often it is driven by familiarity. We are not merely attracted to what is good for us. We are attracted to what feels known. The child who grew up around emotional distance may later mistake distance for mystery. The child who fought for affection may later confuse anxiety with passion. The child who was rarely understood may become strangely attracted to people who do not understand them at all. Because somewhere deep inside, the psyche attempts to replay old wounds. It whispers, perhaps this time the ending will be different. And so we pursue the unavailable, we chase the cold, we beg for crumbs. We mistake emotional starvation for chemistry. The heart often returns to what once hurt it. Not because it enjoys suffering, but because it still hopes for rescue. And this is why love can become dangerous. Not because another person destroys us, but because we hand them the power to confirm our oldest fears. The fear that we are too much, too broken, too needy, too complicated, too difficult to love. Many relationships are not actually relationships, they are battlefields. Places where 2 wounded people unconsciously demand that the other heal injuries they never caused. One asks, please prove I am worthy. The other asks, please prove you will never leave, and both become exhausted. Because no human being can permanently silence another person's deepest fears. Only understanding can do that, only awareness, only courage. The courage to ask, am I choosing this person because they love me? Or because they feel familiar? The most dangerous kind of loneliness there is a loneliness far worse than being alone. It is being unseen beside someone. To share a bed but hide your thoughts. To speak but never feel heard. To cry in silence while someone sits only inches away. Many people stay in relationships not because they are loved, but because they fear emptiness. They fear the silence of an empty apartment, the unanswered phone, the vacant chair, the absence of messages. And yet the irony is devastating. The wrong relationship often creates a loneliness far greater than solitude itself. Because when we are alone, at least we know why. But when someone lies beside us and still cannot see us, we begin to wonder whether we are invisible. Eventually we stop speaking, stop asking. Stop revealing ourselves, piece by piece we disappear. And perhaps this is why genuine curiosity is so rare and so powerful. Because it says, I want to know who you are, not who you pretend to be, not who the world sees, but who you become when no one is watching. The courage to be seen. Most of us spend our lives hiding. We hide our fears, our jealousy, our grief, our disappointments, our regrets. We learn very early that certain emotions are unacceptable. Children quickly understand which parts of themselves receive love and which parts receive rejection, so we construct identities, the strong one, the funny one, the successful one, the independent one. And after years of acting, we begin to forget who we actually are. Then one day love arrives. And suddenly we face a terrifying choice: remain hidden and stay safe, or reveal ourselves and risk rejection. This is why intimacy feels dangerous, because it requires exposure, not of the body but of the soul, to say, I'm afraid, I feel broken, I don't know what I'm doing, I need you. These words are often harder than saying, I love you. Because love can be romantic, need is terrifying. Yet the paradox is this: the things we hide most desperately are often the very things that make us lovable: our scars, our sensitivity, our failures, our tenderness. The right person does not fall in love despite these things. They fall in love because of them. What kindness really means. Kindness is often misunderstood. People think kindness means being agreeable, being polite, being soft. But true kindness is much deeper. Kindness means refusing to reduce another human being to their worst moment. It means understanding that behavior often hides pain, that anger hides fear, that withdrawal hides disappointment, that silence hides grief. The kind person looks beneath the surface. When others say they are difficult, the kind person asks what happened to them. When others say they failed, the kind person asks what burden were they carrying. Kindness gives people room to be human. And perhaps that is the rarest gift in modern life. Because we live in a world obsessed with performance, everyone must succeed, be productive, be attractive, be confident, be extraordinary. But love says something revolutionary: you may rest here, you do not need to perform. You do not need to earn your existence, you are allowed to be human. The final question at the end of our lives: very few things will matter. Not the car, not the salary, not the followers, not the titles. What we will remember are the people who made us feel less alone, the people who listened, the people who stayed, the people who saw us. Perhaps love is not finding someone perfect. Perhaps it is finding someone who says, I see your darkness, and I am not afraid, I see your wounds. And I will not use them against you, I see who you truly are, and I choose to stay. There are billions of people on this planet. Yet only a few will ever truly understand us. And perhaps that is why love feels miraculous, not because it is magic, but because it is recognition. Two strangers meeting in the vast darkness of existence and quietly saying, you too, you carry that pain too, you have been afraid too. You have been lonely too, and suddenly, for the first time in years, perhaps for the first time in life, we no longer feel like exiles. We feel understood. And maybe that is what every human heart has been searching for all along: not perfection, not excitement, not admiration, but home, a place where curiosity replaces indifference, where open-mindedness replaces judgment, where kindness silences shame. And if we are fortunate enough to find such a person, we should understand how rare they truly are. Because the world contains many people who will desire us, many who will admire us, many who will use us, but very few who will understand us. And in the end, understanding may be the deepest form of love that exists. For when someone truly sees us, truly knows us, and still chooses to stay, something extraordinary happens. The war inside us finally grows quiet, the masks begin to fall, the defenses disappear. And for one brief moment we stop fighting the world, we stop fighting ourselves, we simply rest. Perhaps that is all love ever was: not a fire, not a storm, not a dramatic collision of souls, but the gentle discovery that somewhere, somehow, another human being has looked directly into our hidden world and whispered, you don't have to be afraid anymore. And at last, after years of wandering, the heart finally comes home.